Hello everyone. Now you will hear a short retelling of the movie Dolls. Enjoy watching. Laura and her daughters are going to rest in the house by the lake. While Kyle's older sister was reading a book in the car, Maddie almost got under the wheels of another car. Sean joins his relatives late in the evening. At the very last moment, he was called to work. The road takes half a day. Entrance to private territory is blocked by a gate. Laura has problems with opening the rusty lock. Fortunately, just some man drove up and helped to fix the lock. According to Owen, he lives here with his family all year round. There used to be another family living here, just in Laurie's house. The boy Johnny had problems with his head. So he once disappeared, and the parents decided to immediately sell the house. Laurie is anxious to be next to a stranger, and she tried to move on as soon as possible. Just in case, she mentioned that her husband would also come here soon. Finally, the journey was over and the girls immediately ran to the lake. Sean just called. He looked into the store to surprise his relatives and buy them gifts. One of them is a music box, although Laura is more interested in eggs. Woman left her phone in the car and took the things to the house. The girls ran to ride the swing. Suddenly they noticed the red thread that led to the bowl. The children, without thinking, went into the forest to find out where exactly she was going. Laura noticed that the daughters had disappeared somewhere and panicked, but they had already returned and ran to their room. Kyla hid something under her clothes and put the item in the box. The girl says that this is a gift for her dad, but refuses to tell what it is. The evening came. Laura read a book to the daughters, but Maddie suddenly asked to sleep, not even eating her pizza. On one of the pages, Laura discovered a children's drawing. Kylo claims that he was already here when they found the book. Later, the woman realized that her youngest daughter was not well and went downstairs to drink wine for her health and smoke at the same time. Her husband called on the home phone. He had already driven half the way, and what is important, he bought eggs. Laura warned Sean that the lock on the gates was rusty, so she did not close them. The connection broke off sharply. Someone is watching the woman from the bushes and breathing heavily. At night, Laura woke Kyle up and told him that something was wrong with the younger one. She was hiding in the tent for some reason. When Laura came up, the girl was pulled out. She's just sick, everything will be fine, the woman calms Kyle. But then Maddie began to creak and try to get something out of her throat. A foreign object was taken away. They found a piece of tape on which it was written hello. We see how the sisters found an unusual place where they were brought by the red thread. In the middle of the forest, there was a tea service and 2 biscuits on the stumps. The children immediately threw themselves on a sweet treat. True, she did not eat her own Kyle, but left it for her dad. Laura was picking out the cakes and found another ribbon among the green slush on which it was written, "Goodbye." The woman was scared. In addition, the home phone does not work, and from the attic there was a loud rumble. Laura took a knife and turned off the light so that they could not be seen from the yard. Gathering her spirit, Laura went to the car for a mobile phone. In the cabin, she found a gift tied with a red thread. Inside was a doll of Maddie, which means someone had already penetrated into their house. You need to get out of here as soon as possible. But Kyla panicked and began to beg for her mother's hand. Laurie, of course, could not drag both daughters on herself. Therefore, 11-year-old Kylie had to agree to run on her too. A stone flew into the car and broke the glass. Laura drove backwards, but then the wheels fell off and the car almost turned over. The family had to return home. Laura closed the windows and noticed that Maddie's neck was swollen. Girls are hard to breathe and swallow. Laura ran to the bathroom for medicine and, having dropped the jar into the sink, almost ran out of pills. The couple managed to save. Laura crushed them and, stirring in the water, gave her daughter a drink. Kylo is waiting for Daddy to come soon and save them. Scred heard outside the window. Laura moved the curtain and saw the photo. The stranger scratched the faces of the whole family, except for Laura. Apparently, only she is interested in him. In the bedroom, Maddie pulled out again, and Kylo fell into hysteria. Mom came up with a great plan. They will wait for their father on the street, so that he immediately saw them and took them to the hospital. And it doesn't matter that some maniac is waiting for them outside. He even reminded himself and waved to Laurie with a pen, after which he went about his business. Meanwhile, Sean drove up to the gates, which still turned out to be closed. There was a piece of paper with the inscription, Follow me, and a red thread that led somewhere into the bushes. Sean took the phone and called his wife. Familiar ringtone came from somewhere more often. The tube was removed and they began to breathe hard. The man decided to find out where the red thread was going, especially since his wife's phone was ringing somewhere there. Sean is 100% sure that Laura and his little daughters decided to play him like that at midnight in the middle of the forest. The man found the phone on a large stump in the middle of the cups, and 4 huge dolls cut out of wood were placed on him. Sean did not notice how a creepy guy in a mask with an axe in his hands approached him from behind. We move into the house again. Maddie is getting worse and worse. From somewhere on top, a loud rumble again, and then Sean's voice. But this is just a record of his words when he walked through the forest and called his wife. Laura opened the door and saw a recorder, which had a piece of paper with the inscription, "I'm home" attached to it. Suddenly the recorder fell, a stone fell behind it, and then Sean's body fell off the roof. Laura turned him over and saw that the eyes of her dead husband were cut out. The woman did not allow the daughters to run out into the street and lied that it was not her dad. At this moment, the electricity was cut out. Laura decided that in this situation the best decision would be to go out again. 2 dolls of the girl were riding on the swing, and the doll of the mother was hung. Apparently, Laura has already disliked the killer. Suddenly, this cruel maniac began to throw eggs at the family. Screaming in hysterics, they ran back into the house. Eggs are already too much. Laura began to barricade the door. And Kyle again brought a book with pictures. It was drawn by a bad person. Then one of the mannequins flew into the window. The family got scared and ran to hide in the bedroom on the 2nd floor. Laura fell to the floor and began to look out the legs of an uninvited guest. Maddie decided to calm her mother and reminded her that her father would come soon. And then Laura realized. If the eggs were thrown at them, then Sean's car is somewhere nearby. And this is their chance to escape. The woman put the children in the closet and promised that she would soon come back for them. Having taken the keys of her dead husband, she returned to the house. The maniac wandered around their kitchen. But then he got distracted by Owen, who decided to check out the family there at night. Laura hits the glass and calls for help. Owen tries to understand what is happening here, but it was already late. A man in a mask approached from behind and chopped him with an axe. In the kitchen, Laura discovered a book. The maniac added several new illustrations. All family members were depicted dead on them, and the author himself was satisfied with the axe in his hand. Laura was inspired to go out again, but the killer did not wait for her and pulled the woman out through the window. Kyla decided to go after her mother, and her father was most likely waiting for them on the street in the car. She gave a small big knife and persuaded to go with her. Their favorite song is heard from the car, but there was no one in the cabin, only gifts. There was another one in the trunk. Mommy with tape on her mouth and wrapped in red thread. Laura screamed and got an axe in her mouth. The maniac got in the car and drove the children into the house. Finally, they saw their dad with empty eyes. The sisters ran away and hid under the bed. The pursuer entered the bedroom after them. The man checked the closet. And then sat down on the bed and turned to the sisters. The man in the mask is called John. He grew up in this house and watched their family when they came here every year. John hoped that one day they would notice him. The big guy put a jar on the floor and wet a rag in it. It was chloroform. The dirty girl turned the bed over and buried the girls. On the meadow, one of the mannequins had cut off Owen's hands and his father's eyes. Laura slept all night with an axe in her side, but the gun had to be taken to finish the rest of the mannequins. John measured Maddie's eye and began to dig holes in the face of the little doll. Kyla came to her senses, but continued to pretend to be asleep. Meanwhile, John took another doll, put it on the ground and cut off her hand to replace it with a meat one. Kylo is talented in depicting the trigger, so he didn't do anything even when John brought an axe over it to separate his hand from the body. But then the maniac heard the melody from the music box and got distracted. The tree had a plush teddy bear, and the car had wine. Instead of the lore, there was a box in the trunk. Apparently, it was very interesting what the man bought there, and after getting rid of it, the woman first unpacked the gifts. The maniac looked at the ballerina. Therefore, the woman, without any problems, was able to chop off the healthy man even with a serious wound in the side. Laura added a knife and hit the balls a couple of times. With the last blow, the woman drove the axe into the mania's groin. After that, Laura found the daughters. The three of them rushed to the car. The woman once again looked at the defeated monster, looked at him and Kyle. But when she turned for the second time, Johnny the Lake Man was already hiding.